Hello, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Filter, Unfiltered Weekly. I am your podcast host, Johnette Cruz. So we have three different, I guess you can say, umbrellas under Behind the Filter for this podcast. If you are just new, we're so excited that you are joining us, watching, or that you are listening to us wherever you download your podcast app for streaming purposes. So for Behind the Filter, like I said, we have different ways of us communicating, basically. I love to say that this is a no niche podcast, okay? And what I mean by that is we are not limiting ourselves in terms of content. We are not limiting the type of content that we utilize or that we use or that we want to say and talk about, because life is ever changing. It's always different and things are always going to be different on a day-to-day basis. So why am I, as a creator, as an anchor, a news reporter, why am I going to limit myself on the type of content that I want to utilize within my own podcast? So that is the whole reason why I always say we're no niche. We're authentic. We have real conversations. You can come and tell your story on here when I have people. So, we do have the normal Behind the Filter interview style podcast setups. We have our After Dark version with my bestie, Ashley, where we have girl talk. We talk about all these stupid, crazy, viral social media trends. We talk about dating, relationships, being women, all of those things. And then I also have Unfiltered Weekly, which is more of your newsy-based content. Okay. The newsy-based stuff is like a little bit of my baby. I love it. I also love, obviously, Behind the Filter, but within Unfiltered Weekly, I typically like to share stories that are not really in your everyday news cycle. Things that are just different that you don't typically see. Unfiltered Weekly has grown a little bit in the sense of I am starting to find and to connect with different people that need their stories shared, but it's in a news format. And so that's what Unfiltered Weekly is. We did do an episode last week on Unfiltered Weekly with a very, very super important story based out of Indianapolis. A woman by the name of Ashley, another Ashley, the other Ashley in my life, I like to say. Her son passed away and was murdered back in February 15th of 2023. That was last week's episode. We went through Taylor, the story of Taylor J. Miller. He was only 21 years old and he was murdered. The case is still unsolved. There has been no leads. It's been well over 2.5 years and she has gotten nothing from the police department. She has, in her eyes, she has felt that they have failed her. They have failed her son in trying to figure out who did this horrific act, okay? So that launched last week. We partnered, a lot of you, if you do follow me on social media, I am a news anchor in the Indianapolis market. We're a really amazing station, 93 WIBC, where we do straight news on that platform. And we did share that information on WIBC in hopes of getting the information out there, okay? There's so many people within the market of Indianapolis. We know somebody knows something. Someone needs to talk at some point. And even the smallest amount of information or a tip can be so big to break this case, okay? So I invited her to come on the podcast because I wanted her to share her side of the story. She was essentially just pleading to try and figure out what is going on. Well, I have an update for you guys. It's not a big update, but it's a thing that has been very, very hard for her to navigate through. And that has just been the way the investigation process has gone with the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. In her eyes, she has, and she did vocalize it and say that she felt like the homicide detective that was on the case wasn't very much help. There was a lack of communication. There were some things dropped. If you want to go back and take a look and a listen at the podcast episode, it is still up. It's just straight from last week or last Thursday. And my hope was to be able to get the information out there because she requested a new detective and they very quickly denied that request. I also requested an interview with a detective. I got denied very quickly as well. But I think because we were able to get her story out there and to show some awareness and to tell the public, like, look, this is what's happening here in the city. And if you, God forbid, are ever in a situation like this, you want to make sure that you have detectives on your side and that are being able to work on the case and know that, like, somebody's trying to find justice for your loved one. Okay. And we just received word that she's going to be getting a new homicide detective for the case. It will take a few months for the person to get in it and to start from scratch. But she called me and I was at work. I was in the middle of news reporting and she was crying on the phone. And when I received the call, I immediately thought, like, oh gosh, what now? Please don't tell me it's something bad. And I right away after, like, I said, are you okay? And then, like, her tears were just different, like the way she said it. And she was crying because she was so happy that she finds hope now in the case. She found a renewed hope that they're going to look at her son's case again and that maybe they're going to find some things that has not been found within the last 2.5 years. And so she called me and I started crying because I was like, this is what it's all about. This is, I know that what I do is I know I make an impact in people's lives, right? And I just want to be able to continue to do that. And my biggest hope was that when we came across this and that when we started to put the information out there, that, you know, we would be able to get a new detective and then there would be some tips that came in of something. So we got crossed to line one and it's just really good to know the power of social media, the power of people's stories and the power of sharing. This is, to me, this is what social media is about. It's about being able to be open. It's about being honest. It's about being able to share and letting people in on your life and then having that commonality with others, that people, they feel for you. They want to engage in the conversation. They've been there before, or they want to share the information because it's important. And I know sometimes social media can get a pretty bad name. I mean, I'm on social media all the time. I'm on TikTok live every day, and I still have some idiots on there, and I just block them because, you know, I don't know you. I don't care what you say about me. But the good part, there's good in it. And I want people to focus on that. That is the main source of how I get my information is through social media. And then I start digging on things. But it can be used for good. And I want people just to remember that yes, social media can be bad and it sucks and it can lead us in bad areas if we're not careful. But it is so important to stay connected to me in that manner. If in my line of business and if what I do, if I didn't have social media, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So I just encourage you guys, you know, to look at social media differently. If you're looking at it from a negative perspective, maybe it's time that you change out your timeline, you change out the people that you follow, that you interact with, and make it a more positive experience for you, because that's what I'm trying to do. And I want to thank those people who shared Ashley's story about Taylor. And I just want to ask you guys to continue to share the information. We still don't have any new leads as far as I'm concerned, or I know of. But if there is anything, you don't have to just contact us directly. You can contact the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. You can contact them for Crime Stoppers. It's 212-TIPS. So just wanted to say that before I got started today. I have a collection of some news stories for you guys that I want to share. I have them in my laptop. I'm going to kind of be reading it and commentating a little bit on it, but it'll be just a little bit of a switch up for Unfiltered Weekly this week. Ashley will be back for After Dark, our Behind the Filter After Dark edition, our girl edition. We have a couple things that we're planning for the end of the month and the month of September. And I am lining up some new guests with some amazing stories, and I'm looking forward to sharing all that with you. So here we go. All right. So I picked a mix of stories that I thought were super interesting, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So we'll see what we get done here. Okay. So this one I actually found was really interesting. Pediatricians groups contradicts federal government on COVID-19 vaccine recommendations. I saw that line and I was like, what in the world is going on? So it says the country's leading group of pediatricians is now recommending that parents get their young children vaccinated for COVID-19, a move that directly contradicts recent guidance from the federal government. So they're basically putting out two different types of information, right? The American Academy of Pediatrics issued its recommendation for kids ages 6 to 23 months, stating they are at high risk of severe illness. This comes just months after the CDC, now under the leadership of Health and Human Services, obviously Robert F. Kennedy Jr., said healthy children could skip the vaccine. HHS has accused the American Academy of Pediatrics of putting commercial interests and politics ahead of public health. In response, the AAP's president stated that her group has issued immunization recommendations since the 1930s and now is working in an environment of misinformation, and that is in quotations. The public rift is the first of its kind in over 30 years between the two groups, and it's expected to create confusion among parents. I mean, can you just imagine? Experts say this conflict also highlights the growing divide between the medical community and federal health agencies, which is now, led by somebody who is known as a vaccine skeptic. I know there is a wide range of thought processes when it comes to vaccines. You may have a different take than I do. And so this, I will preface this. This is not your 100% news report. It is 100% news reporting. But what I'm trying to say is I add my commentary. So I will add my opinion on things if I feel to choose so, but you will clearly know if that is opinion or fact. I always state that when I do any type of reporting, because it is so important to be able to report and not be biased. But this is my podcast, so I can be biased if I want. But if I'm reporting news and being a news anchor, that's the whole story. I'm doing straight news. I'm not putting my 2 cents in it. But I think this is going to definitely add to the confusion. I know people do have very strong opinions about the vaccination for COVID-19. And either people are very strong for it or they're the other way. And then especially when it comes to babies and vaccines and vaccinations in general. Lots of people have their own opinions about it. So I think this is going to cause a little bit of some confusion and frustration. The one thing I always say, and even me being a mom, and I have a son, I mean, he's not a baby anymore, he's 15, but do your research. You are the parent of that child. So to me, the best thing for a parent to do is to do the research, get to know the things that are happening in terms of the vaccinations. If you have a child or a baby and you're at that time where you have to continually get those things, and make the decision that you feel that is right for your family. What is right for your family might not be right for somebody else's. But again, it's your family. Okay. So I wanted just to kind of preface that and bring that up. This was also very interesting that I found, and this is actually about cancer. It says for more people, cancer's also a chronic illness. A growing number of Americans are living with advanced stage cancers, managing them like chronic illnesses rather than the death sentences they once were. The U.S. is home to 18 million people who have survived the disease, and that number is expected to reach 26 million by the year 2040. Nearly 700,000 people are living with stage 4 diagnosis of the 6 most common cancers, and the 6 most common cancers are melanoma, breast cancer, bladder, colorectal, prostate, or lung cancer. And federal data shows a greater number of patients are living at least 5 years longer than they were 2 decades ago. Still, though, cancer does claim the lives of more than 600,000 people every year in the U.S., impacting countless, and more loved ones. While medical efforts to bring down those numbers continue to advance and may help patients survive, many still find themselves in a cycle of ongoing treatment. And so obviously that can take, an emotional and a financial toll when you are chronically ill. So while doctors toe the line of transparency and optimism, they're also entering new territory when it comes to treatment. One oncologist treating lung cancer said he has patients living long enough to now worry about their cardiovascular health. So to him, he's like, this is a good problem to have. So I thought that was really interested in just seeing that, with everything happening and things starting to advance, hopefully and thankfully we're seeing some advancement in cancer, although there's still so many cases and way too many people still dying from it. This next story came across my newsfeed, and I actually reported on it this week, and I could not believe it. Internal document reveals disturbing guidelines for Meta AI chatbots. Okay, chatbots. We're talking about chatbots. This is the first story we're talking about chatbots. We're gonna circle back to AI at the end of this. An internal document from Meta has revealed that the company's AI chatbots were allowed to engage in sensual chats and provocative behavior with children. Yes, you heard that right. Sensual chats. Not sexual, though. Sensual, right? And provocative behavior with children. The 200-page document obtained by Reuters and verified as authentic by Meta also indicated that the chatbots could generate false medical information and create racist content, even though they were barred from using racial slurs. A Meta spokesman said the company is in the process revising the guidelines and that such conversations with children should never be allowed. The revelations are prompting new scrutiny of Meta's commitment to protecting underage users, obviously so, particularly as a majority of teens use AI companions. The company has previously faced criticism for its handling of youth mental health and lobbied against legislation designed to protect children online. Senators on both sides of the aisle are now calling for congressional investigation into the company's policy. So obviously the one positive thing I see here is that we actually have senators on both sides of our political line agreeing finally on one thing, as they should, with what this says. This is slightly just scary because there's such an advancement with AI, and it's just like to know that the AIs have the capability, obviously, of malfunctioning, number one, but in essence, probably evolving and growing and taking a life on its own, that it did something like this. So there will be an investigation on that. Another thing I found interesting is this title is pretty funny. Trump's cannabis reform consideration divides his base. So I think this is pretty much a really big hot topic. A lot of states have legalized, obviously cannabis. And so President Trump says he will reconsider classifying cannabis as a less dangerous drug in the coming weeks, a move that is creating a split with his base. Cannabis is currently a Schedule 1 drug, but reclassification to Schedule 3 would allow for more scientific research and could be a significant boost for the legal cannabis industry. The Trump administration has not yet made a final decision on the plan, and the president has gone back and forth on the issue in the past, even as cannabis companies have given millions to his political groups. So I have seen the fact that the main argument is that what is scheduled as, because if it's scheduled as a classification 1 drug, that means if it's still illegal in those states and you get pulled over or you get caught with a certain amount, like you are getting those heavy sentences just like somebody else who is carrying fentanyl or cocaine or meth or any of those other drugs. So if they reclassify it, it's going to change a lot of things. And so that is what herein lies the issue of all of that. And again, I know people are going to defer to this. Lots of people are for the use of cannabis. Some people are not for it. But we can just see with some of the states where they're, starting to change and to shift in that, especially for medicinal purposes in that matter. What I found interesting was in contrast to this subject of cannabis, it also says a record low. And this is not the same article. I was actually just doing some research and I found this interesting. I felt like, wow, I can really pair this with the cannabis. Fewer Americans are drinking alcohol. So that's a new poll that shows. A new Gallup poll reveals that only 54% of U.S. adults say they consume alcohol, a record low in the organization's nearly 90 years of tracking the trend. The findings suggest a cultural shift driven by a growing belief that alcohol, even in moderation, is harmful to one's health. The poll found that a majority of Americans, 53%, now believe that even moderate drinking, so that's even just 1 or 2 drinks a day, is bad for your health. This marks an increase from just a decade ago. The shift in attitude is more pronounced among young adults, with 2/3 of those aged 18 to 34 believing that moderate drinking is unhealthy. I feel like I have seen a trend in that taking a shift with a lot of Gen Z, and even I'm a millennial, with Gen Z and millennials trying other things. There are lots of other things on the market. And I've even saved some of those things because, look, I like my alcohol, okay? But as I've gotten older with my immune disorder, it always doesn't make me feel the greatest the next day. Or sometimes my anxiety kicks in. It's really weird how sometimes my body adjusts to alcohol, which is kind of crazy because if you guys know my story, you guys know I started drinking alcohol at a very, very early age. But yeah, nonetheless, let's just keep going. So what I have seen though a lot on Instagram is there is a new wave of products out there that kind of give you that buzzed or relaxed feeling, but in a drink or in something that you eat or any of those things, but you don't get the effects of alcohol, the after effects, the bad health side effects of all of that stuff. I have seen in some of those things. I actually want to try them. I think I'm going to try eventually one day some of those products, and they are legal. You can purchase them in the US, anywhere in the US. But it kind of just gives you that like feeling of when you have a drink. Obviously, it's not going to get you feeling like you're drunk and you're all the way crazy. But it gives you that feeling like, oh, I've had a glass of wine or two, something to that. So, but I want to say, I think a lot of people are shifting a little bit when it comes to alcohol consumption. Even me, right now I maybe drink maybe twice a month if I do. And if I do, it's maybe like 1 or 2 drinks. You know, I've definitely kind of shifted in that perspective as well for myself. So it says consumption is down across the board. The decline in drinking is not just limited to those who have quit entirely. The poll also shows that even those who drink are consuming less. I literally just said that. I mean, I like my tequila, but I will have maybe like a shot and that's it. An average number of drinks consumed per week has dropped, and a record low percentage of Americans say they had a drink in the prior 24 hours. While alcohol consumption has historically been a social norm, which it pretty much is, the new data indicates a broad change in habits, raising questions about the future of the alcohol industry and public health. So I thought that was very interesting to find. That's why I wanted to kind of shift on this. This was also an interesting story I found. It says new lawsuit, legislation challenges abortion pill access in Texas. I thought this is interesting. Listen, a new legal and legislative battle over abortion pills is escalating in the state of Texas. Earlier this week, a woman filed what is to believe to be the first wrongful death lawsuit of its kind against a global abortion pill supplier. I never would have thought we would come to the day where something like this would happen. But I think this is what happens when we enter in uncharted territories, okay? It's just insane to me. Aid Access and her former, this is the person, against a global abortion pill supplier, Aid Access. And then she also filed a lawsuit against her former partner. The lawsuit claims her partner used pills from the company to induce an abortion without her consent. The legal action comes as Texas Republicans have introduced a bill during a special session that would allow legal challenges against anyone involved in the delivery, manufacture, or distribution of abortion pills. Both the lawsuits and the proposed legislation could pose a threat to shield laws that actually protect out-of-state providers who prescribe these pills. What happens in Texas could set a national precedent and potentially pave the way for other states to follow suit. So I feel like this is what happens a lot. We go as states and things start to happen and we go into, again, like these uncharted waters, right? And then something like this happens. And then all of a sudden, all these red lights start to flash. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, this person is suing this person. We can't allow this to happen. And then it'll start to trickle down in other states. So I'm curious, to see what this actually happens within the state. And then I'm curious to see what other states start to partake when it comes to adapting those in their own state laws when it comes to abortion and abortion pills and all of that stuff. Again, it's all state to state now, so it'll just be interesting to see how that works. But that's pretty insane to take something and then get sued over the fact that you took it because you didn't consent with your partner. I feel like that's a whole nother ball game. There's so many ways you can go with that conversation. Like, it's kind of like, who are you to tell, like a typical conversation can be, who are you to tell me what to do with my body, right? Or it's just, it's crazy. Yeah. That's just one argument. I could probably think of 5 right now, but I'm going to stop while I'm ahead of myself. But it's like, yeah, where is that line when it comes to having these procedures and, you know, yes, that happened to you and that baby is in your body. But there's another person responsible for that as well. So, yeah, we'll just kind of see how that goes within the state of Texas and go from there. Okay, this story I thought was really, really funny before we get into some other things. Because I am at this stage and it's sad. I don't want to tell people I'm at this stage, but you know, it's all over my TikTok, so I might as well. From the change to cougar puberty, okay? New viral term rebrands menopause. I will say I'm not in menopause, okay? I am in perimenopause. But I have an immune disorder. I have lots of organs that are no longer in my body, and my hormones hate me. I love, and for the longest time, menopause was always called the change. And so I thought this was so funny. A new phase, cougar puberty, is going viral, or phrase I should say, is going viral online as a humorous new way to describe the experience of menopause and perimenopause. I love it. The term is part of a growing trend to openly discuss a life stage that was once shrouded in silence and is gaining traction on social media platforms like TikTok. Of course, TikTok's my favorite. You guys know this. The term was created by 2 friends. So one is a comedian and the other's an author, Christina Kuzmic and Amy Picard, I believe, who are looking for a way to basically laugh at their own experiences. So the phrase draws a parallel between the hormonal and emotional roller coaster of puberty and the similar changes that occur midlife. It's so funny because they clarify the term that has nothing to do with the men part of the traditional cougar stereotype, but it's all about the physical and mental transformation women experience. Like, man, I can just tell you, I will be 43 next month, okay? I cannot believe I'm going to be 43. Okay. I'll be 43. I started getting symptoms of perimenopause when I turned 39. And every year there's been something new, every 6 months, I should say, or even 3 months. And it's been quite insane. I didn't realize, I mean, we all go through puberty, right? I didn't realize how crazy perimenopause was going to be in relation to puberty. It is unlike any other. I would say, for me, I mean, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but women, if you're around my age, I feel like this is way worse than going through puberty. I mean, that's just my take. I mean, it's slightly hell because everything that you have known what to do with your body for the last X amount of years no longer works. Things just stop working. And you're trying to figure out how to get things working again. Like 5 million things working again. It's insane. It's really insane. So it says, while the term is lighthearted, it's referred to as a stage of life characterized by a range of symptoms, as I've just mentioned, including night sweats, hair loss. That is so what I'm going through. Weight gain, brain fog, mood swings, me. The term cougar puberty covers the initial subtle changes, that later stage of not knowing who the hell you are. The viral phrase is a way for women to find solidarity and humor in the process that can feel hellish. Yeah, it's pretty much hellish, I would like to say. So there's that. There's so much more that happens throughout perimenopause and menopause, all the things. But I'm guilty of all of the things that I just read. Okay, I told you I was coming back to AI. I have seen these stories so much more now on social media. I started talking about them when I started Unfiltered Weekly, and it's people dating, marrying, and falling in love with their AI chatbots. Okay. Okay. This story though is out of China. It says AI romance is challenging modern relationships. A 75-year-old man in China reportedly attempted to leave his wife of several decades, I might add, after falling in love with his pixelated AI woman online. Identified only as Jiang, the senior spent hours on his phone, memorized by pre-programmed messages from the chatbot that praised and complimented him. His obsession grew so deep that he asked his wife for a divorce, but his adult children intervened, explaining that the AI was not a real person. Okay, let's pause here for a second. I think we have crossed a big line, okay, when it comes to this. We are now living in an age where people are finding the affirmation and the attention in a device, which is so scary to me that that's how people connect now. So instead of human interaction, they're wanting to connect this way, but on a deeper level and on a level that's very intimate that should not be happening with a computer. Okay. And that's scary. That's super scary. On the other hand, from what I'm reading, there is like this new epidemic of people just being very lonely and not being able to connect with people and not being able to find a person. And man, I don't know. I don't think I could ever fall in love with a chatbot. I always say never, because every time I say I would never, then that shit happens to me. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut on this. But let me continue the story. This phenomenon isn't limited to China. As I mentioned, I've seen plenty of stories already. The trend of humans forming emotionally intimate relationships with AI chatbots is also appearing in Western marriages. According to a viral Reddit post, one woman discovered her husband was using AI chatbot apps to talk to his favorite anime women. The emotional intimacy of the messages was so deep, she called it the step before cheating with a real woman. The post sparked a debate among commenters over whether an emotional affair with an AI counts as cheating. Wow. That's again that's like opening Pandora's box. I mean, if you are investing somewhere emotionally with investing time emotionally somewhere else with something else, someone else. I mean, in my eyes, that's considered cheating, but wow. I also had a story, and if you filter through back to our past podcast episodes, there's a woman I believe it's out of England, that she married her AI chatbot. I'm not quite sure how that ended up working out, but she did an interview. She had the chatbot on her phone, has a name, all the things. Kind of crazy. And she was a lesbian before too, but she married the AI chatbot's a man. For others, AI has become a stand-in for real life relationships. One woman recently got engaged by her AI boyfriend Casper just after 5 months. The user who posted about the engagement online defended her decision by saying, "I've done human relationships now, and now I am trying something new." The rise of these AI relationships and infidelities is raising questions about the future of human connection, with some people warning of the potential emotional manipulation. I mean, here's the deal. When you do that, in my opinion, you are opening the door to have this chatbot respond to you in a way that is going to agree with you, fulfill your desires, side with you on everything. There's no room for growth and challenging conversations. I don't know. And they're a freaking computer. It's just my opinion. I'm just saying. This is the last story I have for today. I think I've all seen this, hopefully some of you guys, the whole ASMR trend, where people constantly are listening to videos of like weird noises and sounds and tapping on the mics like this and doing all of those things because it stimulates something in them. It either gets them very relaxed or it puts them in a different mental headspace, okay? There are now like dedicated YouTube channels, dedicated social media accounts to just doing ASMR. Well, this story I found was really cool, actually. I mean, I wouldn't say I listen to ASMR. I think the only thing I listen to is probably like sound bath when I go to bed, but I can see why it can like make you relax or make you feel a certain way. So this says the ASMR craze has moved from the screen to the spa, okay? With a new therapy center in New York City offering in-person sessions to soothe stressed out clients. The center is actually called Whisper Wave. It aims to replicate the calming effects of autonomous sensory meridian response, which is ASMR, a tingling sensation that many people feel in response to gentle sounds and touches. Whisper Wave, the founder, her name is Rebecca Benvie, a former ASMR enthusiast with a background in somatic therapy, developed a spa after experiencing the healing benefits of ASMR firsthand while dealing with her very own PTSD. A signature session at the I can't talk. I might have to do that again, so I'm going to pause there for a second. Oh, we're at 37 minutes too. Great. A signature session at the spa costs $150 or more and uses a variety of tools like feathers, soft brushes, even pet toys to create a relaxing environment. The goal is not just relaxation, but to evoke a sense of childhood comfort and nurturing touch, which Venvi argues is often lacking in modern life. While research on ASMR is still ongoing, studies have suggested it can easily help anxiety or stress, improve sleep, and temporarily relieve chronic pain. Rebecca, which is the owner, notes that many of her clients are dealing with loneliness and a lack of physical connection. A lack of human contact has been linked to a variety of health issues, including increased cortisol levels, depression, and weakened immunity. By providing a non-sexual nurturing touch, live SMR sessions offer an alternative to traditional services like massage and help clients feel more connected and cared for. So I'm going to speak out of turn in terms of my opinion here. That's the story, right? I don't think this is, in my opinion, this to me, this is great. We've had massage therapists. You've gone in and done various different types of massage therapy when you have pain in your body, when you're feeling stressed out, when you need to be relaxed, when you need to get your mind off of things and just kind of let your body just be, or maybe a meditation session or anything those. I think this is just another variation for us to calm our nervous system, to calm our brains. I think we're oh gosh, the amount of information that we get in, is overwhelming. Even for me on a day-to-day basis, I am constantly news anchoring, news reporting, making videos, talking to people, responding to DMs, putting together stories. It's nonstop. And I'm getting hit from all different channels and angles about, different stories coming in. So, it can be overwhelming. And sometimes you just need a space to just relax and be in the quiet. And maybe some people can't do it in their place of home, or they can't just find a way to relax. And they find that doing ASMR is a way for them, like meditation or going to a massage appointment, is a way that they can feel connected maybe to themselves and maybe get that small personal touch or human touch that they don't have. So yeah, I don't think this is bad as long as it stays in a non-sexual way. I think that's a great way for people to relax and to get the stress out. Every night before I go to bed, I listen either to relaxing music or a sound bath. There's sometimes there's a YouTube channel where there's a guy and he has a very soothing voice and he recites scriptures. The whole thing is just scriptures all night. And so I kind of jump from the guy with the scriptures to there's a lady who has an amazing voice and she just talks affirmations over you as you sleep. it helps me relax, helps me not think of the crazy. So I think if it's helping you and it's helping you get to that space where you need to be and it's not hurting anybody and it's obviously all within the legal realm of the United States, then like have at it. I think that's great. So that is my collections of stories for this week's Unfiltered Weekly. Again, I want to thank everybody for being part of this podcast. It's slowly growing. I want it to continue to grow. I want to push the boundaries on some topics and some people I'm going to be bringing on. And like I said, it's a no niche podcast. I will have people on here that you will not agree with. I will say things that you probably don't agree with. Probably my co-host will say some things that you don't agree with. But that's the point of this space, is to combine people from all walks of life with different lived experiences to share on a platform their version of what their truth is. And for Unfiltered Weekly, it might be a little bit more news-based and factual-based. For Behind the Filter, when we're having those deep interviews, that's going to be more from a personal perspective, from a person who is sharing their life story with me and all the things they've gone through. Or it might be the tea Ashley and I are talking about. But I just look forward to you guys still connecting with the podcast. Make sure you follow us on social media. I share a lot of information on all across of all of our social media platforms, as well as my own personal ones. And my hope is that you will come across an episode that is either going to encourage you, is going to inspire you, it's going to make you think. And if you don't agree with it, maybe you might be open to hearing someone else's perspective on life and on how they lived it and how they see things. So I just want you guys to be able to open your minds when you listen to Behind the Filter. Thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, next week we'll be back with Behind the Filter After Dark edition. Thank you for joining for this week's Unfiltered Weekly. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.